efficacy of water services in Limpopo province. It has criticized this province for failing to provide accessible, clean, and quality water to the people of Limpopo. We know also that the Commission has been at the front of championing constitutional democracy by defending human rights, as was the case in the John Kolane matter involving homosexuals. In this case, the Commission approached the Constitutional Court alleging that Kolane's article berated homosexuals constituted prohibited hate speech in contravention of Section 10, subsection 1 of the Equality Act. The Commission has also slammed mad schools in rural provinces, forcing the Department of Basic Education to reprioritize spending of primary school infrastructure. If we take, for instance, the Office of the Public Protector, the Constitutional Court in the UDM case described the Public Protector as an important guardian in the fight against the excesses of public power and corruption. Its work has been exceptional. For example, public funds which were wrongly allocated for the upgrading of a former president's homestead were returned to the fiscus in the Nganda matter. An IEC lease agreement involving corrupt politicians was flagged as irregular by the former public protector, Tulima Donzela. And we know that the report of the public protector relating to an investigation in connection with allegations of inadequate and lack of essential services and basic infrastructure by various organs of state in certain villages within the province of Eastern Cape, left out the province of the Eastern Cape for maladministration. Apart from minor limitations in the past, it cannot be gainsaid that the Office of the Public Protector has played a meaningful role in promoting our constitutional democracy. Honorable Chair, the Auditor General has a constitutional obligation to audit and report on the accounts, financial statements, and financial management of all national, provincial, state departments and administrations, all municipalities, and in any institution or accounting entity required by law. Despite damning findings against municipalities, the Office of the AG has been hamstrung by lack of consequence management. The amendment of the Public Audit Management Act, which seeks to punish accounting officers for material irregularities, was supposed to give us some reprieve that sound financial management in public administration will obtain. This has not been so, and yet one cannot deny the fact that the Office of the AG is our primary vanguard for enforcing proper financial conduct in the public administration. We now turn to both the Commission for Gender Equality and Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities. Regrettably, these commissions lack character and competence. The Gender Commission has not championed progressive reforms to combat femicide and gender-based violence. Income gender inequality persists under its watch. It has not been able to monitor, investigate, research, educate, lobby, advise, and report on issues concerning gender equality. The least said about Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities, the better. For example, the Commission has not joined court proceedings as the friend of the court on matters affecting linguistic, religious, and cultural communities. It has fared dismally. In closing, Honorable Chair, as we reflect on the role of Chapter 9 institutions, we must formalize this debate through establishing a high-level panel to evaluate the role of Chapter 9 institutions in promoting our democracy. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable members, the next speaker, my system keeps on breaking. The next speaker is Honorable Morolong, Deputy Minister in the Presidency.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The prolific and preeminent novelist and playwright, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, writes stories like food, lose their flavor if cooked in a hurry, in his acclaimed work of fiction, Wizard of the Crown. Today we are called upon to reflect on a crucial aspect of our democratic system, one that plays a pivotal role in upholding the values enshrined in our Constitution. In this reflection, we ought to tell the unfolding story of a construction of a national democratic society. This short story should not be told in a hurry, lest we risk it losing the flavor, its pursuit, promise, and the hope that it holds. House Chairperson, through the tempest of despair's bitter sting, a promise lingers, like a song to sing. With each passing day, we enter into a covenant where dawn first ray that hope will triumph, come what may. Some amongst those who wear the mantle of honorable members of this august house may seek to dismiss the utility of hope in the future. They do so because they're the greatest avoiders of contaminated news about the prospects of our democratic project. Some will wax lyrical about how the ANC has betrayed its mission. Honorable members, it is a point to remember that the Chapter 9 institutions supporting our democracy are products of the struggle against apartheid and to overcome its racist legacy. These institutions are vital instruments to aid our departure from our ugly past, as well as beacons of hope in the complex, continuous construction of a national democratic society. That the guardians of the functioning of our democracy, ensuring that the promises made to the people are not mere words on paper, but tangible rights and protections. House Chairperson, to truly appreciate the critical role of the Chapter 9 institutions, we must delve into the historical context from which they emerged. The dark days of apartheid cast a long shadow over our nation, leaving behind a legacy of discrimination, oppression, and systematic injustice. Thus, the need for a robust system of constitutional safeguards to protect our people against excesses of power was a necessary architectural design of our democracy. Honorable members, in 1992, the African National Congress released a document.
We are witnessing daily by Israel
ANC policy guidelines for a democratic South Africa. In part, this document says the sovereignty
can I
in
be
the people of South Africa.
with that person who is disturbed?
Also violated.
Can I be helped, table staff, to switch off the person who is speaking? Continue, honorable member.
Thank you very much, President. I hope I will regain lost time.
So,
sovereignty vests in the people of South Africa. Their will shall be expressed by the democratically elected representative in periodic, free and fair elections. These elected representatives will adopt a constitution which shall be the highest law of the land and guaranteeing their basic rights. Indirect contemplation of the public protector, ready to govern, continues. The ANC proposes that a full-time independent office of the Ombudsman shall be created, with wide powers to investigate complaints against members of the public service and other holders of public office and to investigate allegations of corruption, abuse of their powers, rudeness and maladministration. The Ombudsman shall have the power to provide adequate remedies. He shall be appointed by and answerable to Parliament. House Chairperson, we have quoted the above passages from the 1992 ANC policy guidelines for a democratic South Africa to underscore the historical evolution of our democratic dispensation and the creation of its support instrument, such as the Chapter 9 institutions. The ANC, as the chief architect of our democracy, has always understood and appreciated that for democracy fully to function, it must enjoy support of all the people. For the people to fully enjoy their democratic rights, they need institutions that support their democratic pursuit, rights. Indeed, therefore, the significance of these institutions supporting our democracy lies in their autonomy, allowing them to operate free from political interference and to fearlessly tackle issues that affect the very fabric of our society. We understood that, as we did in 1992, that the sovereignty of our state vests in the people of South Africa. Undermining their rights will be to shake the very foundations of our democracy and state. It is in this context that the importance of institutions supporting the deepening of our democracy cannot be overemphasized. In order to realize the ideal of periodic, free, and fair elections as stated in the 1992 Ready to Govern, the IEC was established. Over the past 3 decades, the IEC has stood out as a credible and functional electoral body, essentially ensuring that our people's will shall be expressed by the democratically elected representatives in periodic, free, and fair elections. House Chair, in the pursuit of a just and equitable society, Chapter 9 institutions plays a crucial role in advancing socio-economic rights. The Human Rights Commission, for instance, actively engages in monitoring and advocating for the realizations of economic and social rights. Their reports and recommendations contribute to the development of policies that aim to uplift the marginalized and vulnerable segments of our population. The realization of a capable development state in part depends on the constitutional safeguards provided, amongst others, by Chapter 9 institutions. Through audits and investigations, the Auditor General ensures that public resources are utilized efficiently and transparently, fostering an environment conducive for sustainable development. The Public Protector, in turn, acts as a watchdog, holding those in power accountable for the exercise of public power. This promotes good governance and protects the public from the effects of maladministration. Honorable members, in a democratic government, transparency, accountability, and the rule of law are paramount. Chapter 9 institutions serve as custodians of these principles, acting as the voice of the people and a counterbalance to potential abuse of power. Through their investigations into corruption, maladministration, and human rights violations, these institutions ensure that the wounds of our painful past are acknowledged, addressed, and healed. They are instruments in bridging the gap between the ideals of our constitution and the lived experiences of the people as a whole. Democracy, like food, loses flavor if cooked in a hurry. The flavor of our democracy is the protection of the people against the unjust use of political power, the abuse of their human rights, the abuse of their cultural, religious, and linguistic rights, the discrimination on the basis of gender, the abuse of public funds, as well as the promotion of the right to vote. Honorable members, the impact of Chapter 9 institutions extend beyond the realm of policy and governance. They have significantly contributed to the development of our legal jurisprudence. Landmark cases investigated and litigated by these institutions have set precedents, shaping the interpretation and application of our laws. These not only strengthen our legal framework, but also serves as a beacon for future generations, guiding them towards a more just and equitable South Africa. As we reflect on the critical role of Chapter 9 institutions in advancing democracy, let us not forget the visionaries who fought for justice and equality. It is our collective responsibility as duly elected representatives of our people to ensure that these institutions continue to evolve, adapt, and fulfill their mandate. So as I said to myself, just as today is born of the womb of yesterday, today is pregnant with tomorrow. What kind of tomorrow was Abu Rira pregnant with? Of unity or murderous divisions, of cries or laughter. Our tomorrow is determined by what we do today. Our fate is in our hands. Writes Ngugi Wachiongo about the state's fictional state of Aburira in his acclaimed book, Wizard of the Crown. Answering these questions about the state of the real South Africa, we should say South Africa is pregnant with a tomorrow that is unified, not murderously divided, that is full of laughter and not cries. We know too well the pain of a murderous divisions of yesterday, the cries of our yesterday, which serves as a broadcast medium of the laughter of our tomorrow. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Laureate from the DA.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The drafters of our Constitution viewed the implementation and safeguarding of our constitutional democracy of such high importance that a whole chapter was dedicated to institutions that would ensure these rights. And 10 years after the establishment of these institutions, the National Assembly established an ad hoc committee under the chairpersonship of the late Honourable Kader Asmal to assess the effectiveness of these institutions. The 2007 report made a number of very important findings and recommendations. And in brief, these centred around financial matters and budget allocations, appointments of commissioners, their relationship with Parliament, specifically accountability and the National Assembly oversight, institutional governance arrangements, accessibility, and overall efficacy. Now, although this report dates back 16 years, there are some findings and comments that are still relevant today. One of the key concerns was the budgets of these institutions, not only the size of the allocations, but where these budgets are housed. A key requirement of these institutions is that they should be independent and be able to express themselves and make findings in matters where the rights of citizens have been infringed. This should be done without fear, favour, or prejudice. But the question is, how independent is an institution if your budget is dependent on a portfolio committee and the executive? This situation still persists, and as recently as June 2023, this year, it was noted in a meeting with the Office on Institutions Supporting Democracy that the current funding approach compromises the perceived independence of these institutions as their budgets remain located within the budgets of specific national government departments. And there is a lack of common identifiable processes to be followed by these institutions for their budgets. And further, some of these institutions do not get or are rarely afforded an opportunity to present and justify their budget requests to Treasury. This is a very real problem relating to independence, as it creates the impression that they are accountable to the specific government department by which they are funded. As the old adage goes, don't bite the hand that feeds you. We have to change this to ensure that our democracy is indeed protected and promoted. Serious consideration should be given to the recommendation that these budgets should be moved to Parliament. Another comment made in the Asmal report relates to the appointment of people holding high-level positions in a political party or other political entities as commissioners. This has a negative effect, whether real or perceived, on the independence of the institution. If we value the independence of these institutions, we should all be advocating for commissioners who are independent in the true sense of the word. Added to the appointment process, the Asmal report also makes a recommendation that the role of ministers be removed. This is important as it ensures distance and independence from any political interference. Again, the intention is to promote independent bodies to ensure democracy and oversight of the executive. But if a minister is involved in who is appointed, it defeats the object. The most prominent recommendation made in the Asmal report was that the situation regarding all the institutions dealing with human rights issues be amalgamated into a single human rights body. This includes the Human Rights Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality, the Commission for the Promotion of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, and the Pan-South African Language Board. If one had an in-depth look at what these different institutions do, it is clear that there are large sections of overlap, and a multiplicity of institutions result in an uneven spread of available resources, which we know are declining, as well as capacities. This has a negative effect on the actual effectiveness and efficiency of these institutions. It leads to fragmentation, duplication, and makes it difficult for the public to know which complaint should be dealt with by which institution. Although there has been some discussion over the past decade regarding this important recommendation with no clear decision on it as yet, I believe that it is time that it be revisited, given the changing economic climate. We have had ample examples of some of these commissions not fulfilling their duties and obligations, where members of the public have been left disappointed by ineffective commissions and long timelines before any attention is given to complaints. Surely this was not what the drafters of our Constitution had in mind. Chairperson, it will be in the interest of all of us that this Parliament revisit the role, function, and efficacy of the Chapter 9 institutions. We have a strong foundation as provided for in the Constitution, but it is time to take them seriously and to ask the difficult questions. We have to reimagine the protection and promotion of the human rights architecture in South Africa, and hopefully the 7th Parliament will put this high on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Mkhwebane. Over to you from the EFF.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The EFF would want to put on record that we will make sure that the Kada Asmal report, which emphasize the independence of these Chapter 9 institutions, especially on how they are funded, which leads to them not being able to perform their responsibilities, will be dealt with, and indeed make sure that they are properly funded. The EFF will also make sure that we stick to the mandates of these institutions. Chairperson and honorable members, we know that there is challenges of corruption in the country, the issue of which weakens democracy. Transparency International further observed that the cost of corruption can be political, social, environmental, and economic. In this regard, freedom, rule of law, citizens' participation and trust in government, a healthy environment, and a sustainable future, as well as opportunities to build and grow wealth, are negatively impacted. Sitting here, Chairperson, as the people of South Africa would know, and having seen what happens to our collective resources as taxpayers when they are plundered and when there's corruption. And yet, as a country, we have a very strong legal fortress to deal with these issues. Leading that is our constitutional institutions, which are there to support and strengthen constitutional democracy. We have the public protector, which investigate any maladministration and improper conduct in state affairs, and the public protector was given more responsibilities and stronger powers by the Nkandla judgment in the matter where the EFF has lodged that application, which said the remedial actions of the public protector are binding unless set aside by a court, or if they are taken on review, therefore making everyone having the right to take their remedial actions to court. But that created a lot of problems for the institutions, because then state functionaries will take the office on review, and the office, in defending the mandate of that institution, it leads then to the office having to spend resources to defend their mandate, and that led to the issue of resources escalating. We've got the Auditor General, which has issued a number of reports and findings against various institutions, and it still shows that there's lots of resources of the states which are being plundered. And there's also the issue of maladministration, because when you have maladministration, then corruption, there's in fact, it's a basis for corruption. We have institutions like the Human Rights Commission, which is also not properly funded, which has vast responsibilities, and it cannot be seen at all. And their remedies or their recommendations are just ignored by state functionaries. We have the Gender Commission, which also needs to be kept as a gender commission, because there's a lot of challenges which we have as an institution, in fact, with that institution which is having, and they cannot have an impact in making sure that gender-related issues are effectively dealt with. We have the Commission on Religious and Linguistic Issues, which also needs very much funding, which also there's delays, and even with the Gender Commission to appoint their commissioners. I must say, Chairperson, that Section 181 of the Constitution is very clear that the Chapter 9 institutions must be supported by organs of state or anyone, and these institutions to be supported, it means that they must be fully funded. It means that the state functionaries, especially the executive, they implement those remedial actions. They don't second guess them. And I think in the next administration, we will make sure as EFF that we don't find a minister or any executive rushing to take the recommendations of these Chapter 9 institutions to court, wasting state resources instead of resolving all these issues in a very cordial and in a persuasive manner, so that the resources of the state are not plundered. We don't support the establishment of or to continue doing any other investigations. These institutions are there. They must be properly funded. Their remedial actions which are issued must be respected and implemented. And another issue, Chairperson, is the fact that there's no need to even establish other Chapter 9 institutions to deal with corruption. If there's that need, that additional mandate should be added to the responsibility of the public protector, because definitely they investigate those. And as the EFF, we see it fit that we need to have a Chapter 9 institution like the National Prosecuting Authority should be a Chapter 9 institution, so that it can also be not accountable to the minister and any intervention which the executive might have. Therefore, that will ensure that there is clean and there a break from relying on the executive when the Chapter 9 institutions are performing their responsibilities. Chairperson, let me also hasten to say another critical area which is being ignored in institutions supporting democracy, though we know that PENSAP is not a Chapter 9 institution, but then that institution also must be fully capacitated so that they'll be able to do and implement and perform their responsibilities. And Chairperson, that's the submission from the EFF. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Professor Msimang from the IFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I rise today on behalf of the IFP to engage in a crucial dialogue on the dispensable role played by Chapter 9 institutions in fostering and fortifying constitutional democracy in post-apartheid South Africa. As we reflect on the tumultuous journey of our nation has traversed, it is paramount to acknowledge the unique and critical mandate entrusted to Chapter 9 institutions. These institutions, including the Public Protector, the South African Human Rights Commission, and the Auditor General, among others, were established to safeguard the democratic principles enshrined in our Constitution. One of the linchpins of our constitutional democracy is the protection of human rights. In this vein, the South African Human Rights Commission stands as a sentinel, tirelessly working to ensure that the human dignity of every South African is respected and upheld. Its interventions, investigations, and advocacy have been instrumental in addressing issues of discrimination, inequality, and injustice, thereby fortifying the bedrock of our democracy. The Public Protector, often referred to as the guardian of good governance, plays an indispensable role in holding public officials accountable. By investigating maladministration, corruption, and abuse of power, the Public Protector serves as a crucial check on the exercise of authority, promoting transparency and accountability within our government structures. Equally vital is the Auditor General, whose scrutiny of public finances is fundamental to maintaining the fiscal integrity of our democratic institutions. Through meticulous audits, the Auditor General contributes to the culture of financial prudence, ensuring that public funds are utilized for the benefit of all citizens. However, as we applaud the accomplishments of Chapter 9 institutions, we must also confront the challenges they face. Adequate funding, operational autonomy, and protection from political interference are essential components of their effectiveness. The IFP calls of a collective commitment to fortify these institutions, empowering them to carry on their mandate without fear or favor. In conclusion, evaluating the role played by Chapter 9 institutions promoting constitutional democracy reveals a multifaceted tapestry of triumphs and challenges. It is our collective responsibility as custodians of this democracy to bolster their institutions and safeguard the principles that underpin our nation's vision. Through unwavering support, we can ensure that Chapter 9 institutions continue to be the bulwark against tyranny and the guardians of the democratic aspirations that define us as South Africans. I thank you, Honorable House Chair.
The next speaker is Honorable Dan from the FF Plus.
Dankie, huisvoorsitter. Agbare voorsitter, Suid-Afrika beskik oor wêreldklas hoofstuk 9 instellings. Want enige instelling wat ten spyte van onderbefondsing, regeringsinmenging, 'n reuse werkslas en legio ander frustrasies steeds tot 'n mate kan funksioneer, hoewel almal nie ewe goed nie, moet iets werd wees. Die Grondwet van Suid-Afrika maak voorsiening vir die uitvoering, bevordering en beskerming van die basiese menseregte van die burgers van hierdie land. En hoofstuk 9 instellings speel 'n integrale rol daarin. Die Suid-Afrikaanse Menseregte Kommissie moet byvoorbeeld toesien dat basiese regte nie geskend word nie. En waar dit wel gebeur, moet ondersoek ingestel en gepaste remedierende stappe voorgeskryf word. Die MRK maak byvoorbeeld 'n bevinding van prima facie menseregte skendings soos haatspraak en verwys dit dan na die Gelykheidshof om 'n finale bevinding te maak. Die hof het juis onlangs beslis dat die MRK hierdie mandaat verkeerd vertolk het deur self bevindings van haatspraak te maak. Dit is dus van kardinale belang dat hoofstuk 9 instellings ook hulle grondwetlike mandaat verstaan en dit nie oorskry nie. Die oorvloed van menseregte vergrype in hierdie land, veral deur die regering self, maak ook die MRK se werkslas byna onmoontlik om te oorkom. Byvoorbeeld, Artikel 24 van die Grondwet waarborg elkeen van ons die reg op 'n omgewing wat nie skadelik is vir ons gesondheid en welstand nie. Tog moet Suid-Afrikaners daagliks hulle drinkwater, daar waar drinkwater beskikbaar is, onttrek uit bronne wat deur miljoene kubieke meter riool op 'n daaglikse basis besoedel word. Hoewel klagtes al deur verskeie partye en verskeie burgers van hierdie land by die MRK aangemeld is, waarskynlik ter duisende, en hoeveel van hierdie klagtes is al aangespreek? Is dit weens die MRK se tekort aan kapasiteit of kortwiek swak plaaslike regering onder die ANC nie juis hierdie artikel 9 instelling se vermoë om sy werk behoorlik te kan doen nie? Chairperson, the Public Protector is another fine example of how the wrong people in the right places can do unmeasurable damage. We've just gone through a Section 194 removal from office exercise, something that has taken a year to complete. The previous Public Protector was found by this House to be incompetent to hold that office. This very House also appointed her 7 years ago. Should the vetting have been done better? Should these proceedings have been instituted earlier to avoid the extensive damage that was subsequently done to this institution? And it begs the question, would the ANC, who has a notoriously poor track record when it comes to consequence management, have instituted these proceedings themselves had it not been done by an opposition party? Which brings me to another burning question, the competence of parliamentarians. Though it has nothing to do with Chapter 9 institutions, I fail to understand, House Chair, how an individual who has been removed as the head of a Chapter 9 institution due to incompetence can be allowed to serve as a Member of Parliament of South Africa, the very institution that removed her in the first place. Hoopelik sal die party wat hierdie oordeelsfout begaan het uiteindelik die wrangvrugte daarvan pluk. The Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities must be enabled to do more than research and paperwork. Recent legal reforms that enable the Auditor General to institute legal proceedings themselves is a step in the right direction, but then it must be done. The role played by Chapter 9 institutions in promoting constitutional democracy is very important. However, these institutions must be capacitated through proper resources and funding, skilled and expert staff, support where necessary, and they must have the statutory backing to make an actual difference. Because, House Chair, a toothless institution tasked with the safeguarding of constitutional democracy is useless to the people of South Africa. I thank you.
Honorable members, the chair is experiencing difficulty with his gadget, and he has requested that as backup I ask Honorable Maseko Jere to chair in the meanwhile, if that is in order. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Honorable members, I think without waste of time, thank you very much, Honorable Dana. The next speaker, it's unfortunate we will have to wait for the chairperson to give us direction. The next party that is supposed to come, the next speaker, can we? I don't have the list with me.
It's Honorable Marekwa from the ANC chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Marekwa, can you follow Honorable Dina as per the list?
Honorable Chair, it's going to be presented by Honorable Makata.
Honorable
Makata, M-A-K-A-T-A. Honorable Chair.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Honorable Chair. I think there was a bit of a disconnection there.
Yes. Can you continue?
Thank you, Honorable
Over
Chair.
to you.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable members of the House. Chapter 9 institutions play a crucial role in South Africa by reinforcing the separation of powers doctrine, a fundamental principle in the country's constitutional law. The doctrine aims to establish checks and balances among the three branches of government, contributing to the overall strength of the democratic system. As part of constitutional measures designed to fortify democracy, Chapter 9 institutions serve as an additional checks on the use of government authority. These institutions, outlined in Chapter 9 of the Constitution, are consciously established as independent and impartial bodies with the explicit purpose of holding the government accountable. In the context of the South African history, marked by discrimination, oppression, and the lack of accountability, these institutions play an indispensable role in shaping and sustaining the nation's democracy. Their impact in particular is critical, serving as a measure of the substantial progress in South Africa's democratic journey. Building on the foundation of accountability and independence, it becomes crucial for these institutions to engage in collaborative efforts with compatible stakeholders. Such partnerships aim to maximize the potential impact and effectiveness that these institutions can collectively achieve. In the context of collaboration among these institutions, specific areas can be identified for each, demonstrating the diverse roles they play in enhancing South Africa's democracy. The Independent Electoral Commission plays a vital role in ensuring credible elections, and its collaboration with civil society, media, and various informative institutions is crucial for the success and credibility of the electoral process. Simultaneously, the South African Human Rights Commission, tasked with promoting and protecting human rights, must engage with civil society, the private sector, and the public sector to proactively address human rights violations. The Auditor General of South Africa has commendably undertaken collaborative efforts with all levels of government, particularly focusing on financial management methods. Consistent and ongoing engagement with institutions contributes significantly to improving financial management practices. The Commissions for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities has a critical role in safeguarding the rights of diverse communities. Proactive engagement is vital, especially in addressing cultural and religious practices that may conflict with human rights. The public protector, having made significant strides, stands to enhance its impact through collaboration, particularly with organizations representing rural women and traditional leaders. This collaborative approach can position the public protector as an accessible office, reaching even the most marginalized communities. The emphasis on dealing with cases like the ones affecting rural women, often overlooked and subjected to human rights violation, is crucial for protecting the vulnerable from both public and private sector wrongdoings. The concerted efforts aligns with the commitment to address cases similar to those affecting individuals like Gogo Dlamini, as articulated by former public Professor Madonsela, Gogo Dlamini describing ordinary and impoverished persons with no means. The Commission for Gender Equality plays a pivotal role in promoting a respect for gender equality and actively contributing to the protection, development, and achievement of gender equality. As a catalyst organization in this endeavor, the Commission's work must be viewed in the context of the historical oppression faced by women in the country based on their gender, which has impeded the progress in various aspects of life. To effectively address this challenge, the Commission should take the lead in fostering collaboration with civil society, the public, and the private sector. This collaboration effort aims to enhance the promotion, protection, development, and ultimate achievement of gender equality. Given the historical oppression faced by women in our society, a strong emphasis on addressing their concerns is crucial for the effective functioning of Chapter 9 institutions, especially in the context of strengthening democracy. Institutions like the South African Human Rights Commission play a pivotal role in this regard. South African Human Rights Commission plays a pivotal role in this regard. Significant contribution include regular advocacy initiatives and public education campaigns, focusing on issues related to equality, non-discrimination, and combating violence based on sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and gender-based violence. The Commission for Gender Equity Act 39 of 96 amended empowers the Commission to monitor and evaluate policies and practices of state organs, statutory bodies, public bodies, authorities, and private entities to advance gender equality. Periodically, the CGE exercises its oversight role by visiting police stations and Tutuzela care centers. These visits aim to oversee and assess compliance in providing victim-friendly services for gender-based violence and domestic violence victims and survivors. Through these visits, the Commission collects data and conducts interviews with the SAPS, personnel, and the TCC managers. The compiled findings are then presented to the National Police Commissioner and relevant stakeholders, initiating further investigation to enhance service delivery in police stations across provinces. Strengthening this aspect remains a critical focus for improving to help fight against gender-based violence. The significance of Chapter 9 institutions in South Africa cannot be underestimated. Chapter 9 institutions emerge as an indispensable guidance, fortifying the nation's commitment to fundamental principles, established to bolster a separation of powers doctrine. These institutions play a pivotal role in maintaining checks and balances among the three branches of government. Their significance is accentuated by their proactive collaboration with civil society, the government, and various stakeholders, emphasizing the collective responsibility to enhance the effectiveness of democratic institutions. Central to this collaborative effort is the Independent Electoral Commission, ensuring the credibility of elections through partnership with civil society, media, and informative situation. Simultaneously, the South African Human Rights Commission spearheads initiatives to actively address human rights violations. These include advocacy campaigns, public education, and strategic collaborations with civil society, the private sector, and the public sector, fostering a proactive response to equality and discrimination concerns. Furthermore, Chapter 9 institutions such as the Auditor General of South Africa, the Commission of the Promotion and the Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities, and the Commission for Gender equality contribute uniquely to the nation's democratic fabric. The Auditor General of South Africa's engagement across government spheres ensures financial management accountability, while the cultural and the gender-oriented commissions actively protect diverse communities' rights. These institutions collectively embody the commitment to democratic values, serving as crucial pillars that reinforce the resilience and inclusivity of South Africa's evolving democratic journey. The ANC is committed to fostering a robust and evolving democracy grounded in principles such as human dignity, equality, the promotion of human rights, non-racialism, non-sexism, adherence to the Constitution and the rule of law, accountability, social justice, and equity. These core values are integral to the ANC's vision for a prosperous nation, and they serve as a guiding principle for every action taken within the state and the ANC-led government. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makata. The next speaker is NFP. NFP, there's no name allocated. COPE, DA, Honorable Advocate Rittenberg.
Honorable Chair, I'm still here.
Okay. Who's speaking?
That's for COPE.
For COPE, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Honorable Rittenberg, you'll follow. You can speak, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the ANC played a pivotal role in providing for Chapter 9 institutions to promote constitutional democracy in post-apartheid South Africa. However, it created the institutions but undermined their pivotal role by appointing party cadres, most of the time to prevent their fulfillment, their roles to society and advancing democracy. Soon, when the ANC is no longer in government, it will bitterly regret when governments formed by other parties follow their example. It is tragic that the 6 independent institutions established under Chapter 9 of the South African Constitution are being subjected to such heavy criticism as the government becomes more errant and more distant from the people who are increasingly being burdened with high taxes and worsening service delivery. People are disappointed that those who are appointed to these pivotal roles lack an understanding of their constitutionally crafted roles. These roles, in the main, are to provide a check on government and thereby to contribute to the transformation of South African society and the advancement of a thriving democracy. Neither of these is happening. By not helping the different spheres of government to correct endemic problems, the situation is deteriorating. In the main, it is as if they don't exist at all. If they had studiously acted as powerful intermediaries between the public and government, they would have helped both the people and the government. They would have complemented the roles of the courts and of parliament. Most importantly, they would have seen the dividends of democracy being enjoyed by even the most marginalized people in South Africa. That is why it is our duty to ask how far down the road of transformation have the South African Human Rights Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality, and the Commission for the Promotion of Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities taken us in fulfilling their explicit mandates of transformation. We are still stuck in no one's land because these commissions did not fully deliver on their mandate. They must rectify this for the glory of our nation and their own glory. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. The next speaker is Honorable Breitenbach, DA.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members. Chapter 9 institutions in South Africa are a fundamental component of the country's democratic framework, serving as guardians of constitutional values, human rights, and good governance. Established under Chapter 9 of our Constitution, these institutions play a pivotal role in upholding and promoting democratic principles, and to achieve this are tasked to perform certain specific functions to support and strengthen our constitutional democracy. The Public Protector, for instance, acts as a watchdog against maladministration and abuse of power. The Constitutional Court has pronounced this remedial action binding, calling it an invaluable gift to our constitutional democracy. And it has, of course, in matters like state capture and abuse of public funds in Building Nkandla, served as the ultimate bulwark against our country's possible slide into failed state status. However, the reputation of this office has been undermined and damaged severely over the last 7 years by the lack of impartiality, objectivity, and the inability or unwillingness of the erstwhile office bearer to always act in accordance with the Constitution and the law. Whether the recently appointed Public Protector will be able to restore confidence in this institution remains to be seen. The South African Human Rights Commission is charged with promoting, protecting, and monitoring human rights in South Africa. It should address human rights violations, conduct research, and educate the public regarding their rights. By doing so, the Human Rights Commission should play a crucial role in fostering a culture of respect for human rights, a cornerstone of any thriving democracy. This Chapter 9 institution has, however, not ever lived up to its potential, and the way it functions or fails to function should be re-evaluated. The Auditor General, on the other hand, plays a pivotal role in overseeing government finances. Through audits, this institution ensures the responsible and effective use of public funds. Fiscal accountability is a linchpin of democratic governance, and the Auditor General's work should theoretically help prevent corruption and mismanagement, thereby promoting financial transparency. This is one of the more effective and efficient Chapter 9 institutions. The Electoral Commission, despite challenges, was seen over many election cycles as effective in delivering free and fair elections in South Africa. Unfortunately, its performance in the run-up to the election in 2021 undermined its own credibility and strengthened perceptions that were held up to then only by a minority that it is not properly independent. The manner in which the Commission attempted to postpone the election in an unconstitutional manner aligns perfectly with the wishes of those political parties who advocated for postponement, chief amongst them, of course, the current majority party. It should not have been necessary for the Constitutional Court to remind the Commission of their absolute responsibility to conduct elections in terms of the constitutionally enshrined regular intervals. Add to that the inability of the Commission to register everyone who wanted to register as voters during the single registration weekend it administered before the 2021 election. It must be clear that amber lights are flashing in respect of the Commission, and it will have to do work to restore public confidence and trust in its independence and effectiveness. On this point, it's important to underline that one of the key strengths of Chapter 9 institutions lies in their independence. The Constitution mandates that these institutions be impartial and free from undue influence, providing a crucial counterbalance to the powers of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. This independence allows them to act without fear, favor, or prejudice, holding government entities accountable and ensuring the protection of citizens' rights. Chapter 9 institutions that have been most successful, both in terms of the performance of their functions and in terms of building and maintaining public confidence, have been those who have not merely paid lip service to their independence, but have jealously guarded over it, even in the face of attempts to manipulate it through political pressure, and who have demonstrated their independence in standing up against attempts to influence them. Another constraint faced by Chapter 9 institution is one of a lack of adequate funding and staffing. While it is, of course, the ANC government which must be blamed for its maladministration and corruption, which has caused insufficient budgetary allowances to Chapter 9 institutions, the reality is that it has a negative impact on the effectiveness of these institutions. Chapter 9 institutions have had a significant impact on our constitutional democracy. Their role in upholding constitutional values, protecting human rights, and ensuring good governance cannot be overstated. As South Africa continues to navigate its democratic journey, ongoing support and enhancement of these institutions will be vital to maintaining the maturation and integrity of our democratic process. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach. ANC, Honorable Somi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Just my proof of life.
Just to respond in two critical areas raised by members who have been part of this debate. The first one comes from COPE, which has, in its own instance of contribution, has seen no action, no activity, no value which is offered by these institutions. I want to refer him in each and every report of the Auditor General. I want to refer him in each and every report of the Commission for Human Rights. I want to refer him on the recent pronouncement by this House on a number of legislations which protect the rights of women and children. He must take time to have that reference, which is a point which directs him into seeing value in the work which is carried by these institutions. He must go back into the preamble of our own Constitution, which instructively indicates that we don't want to go back into injustice. We don't want to go back into inequality. We don't want to go back to less respect for life. It is in us, in this House, to ensure that through these structures and institutions, we uphold the value for living, the value for respect, the value for human rights. In that respect, we carry the importance of such institutions which have been proclaimed by this Constitution as Chapter 9 institutions, who carry that right as the beacons, who have to take us through the mitigation of justice, the mitigation towards equality, the mitigation towards the enjoyment of life at all times. The defense of Chapter 9 institutions is a vital act of our democracy and its development. This is because Chapter 9 institutions, such as the Public Protector, the South African Human Rights Commission, the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities, the Commission for Gender Equality, the Independent Electoral Commission, the Independent Authority to Regulate Broadcasting, and the Auditor General produce high-value assistance for the state and its three arms as a whole. And that assistance is carried on the guarantee for accountability, for the involvement and participation of our own communities to ensure that the enjoyment of democracy is protected at all times. Without these Chapter 9 institutions and their ability to produce independent work, our democracy would be in vain. It is our duty as parliamentarians to deepen the sense of independence of such institutions as enshrined in the Constitution, which is coupled by their own accountability to this House at all times. That's why we need to ensure that the structures we create for their own accountability are the structures that honor and value that these institutions are protected at all times, that these institutions enjoy proper and equated funding to their own value. I want to agree with those who have made their own contribution to ensure that the area of insufficiency on capacity for any institution is not healthy for it. And the same can be said for Chapter 9 institutions. The lack of funding and sufficient human capital negatively affects the operations and growth of any Chapter 9 institution. Problems associated with insufficient capacity for Chapter 9 institutions are financial stability, inadequate regulatory oversight, limited crisis management, and increased systemic risk. Chapter 9 institutions are responsible for monitoring and enforcing rules and regulations. If these institutions lack capacity to effectively carry out their own regulatory functions, it increases the risk of financial misconduct, of fraud, discrimination, and systemic exclusion. Insufficient capacity may hamper the ability for Chapter 9 institutions to respond swiftly and effectively to crises, potentially exacerbated the impact and prolonging the recovery period. Parliament, through its numerous committees, needs to start the process of facilitating an increase in the funding of Chapter 9 institutions. Better funding for Chapter 9 institutions can enhance capacity and expertise. Additional funding can be used to hire and retain skilled professionals in their respective line of work. This can strengthen the institution's capacity to analyze and respond to socio-economic challenges. Adequate fundings allow institutions to invest in modern technology and infrastructure, enabling them to better monitor and analyze society better and implement more efficient regulatory and oversight processes. With increased funding, institutions can conduct more in-depth research and analysis, providing them with a better understanding of society and potential areas of concern. This knowledge is crucial for making informed policy decisions. Funding can support the successful implementation of policies and reforms by ensuring that institutions have the resources needed for outreach, for education, and enforcement. Funding can assist Chapter 9 institutions in responding swiftly and decisively during financial crises to mitigate the impact of issues on society. Some efforts which have been done with assisting the funding Chapter 9 institutions is through the institutions supporting democracy. The oversight role of Parliament is crucial in supporting and sustaining democracy. Parliament, as a legislative body, plays a central role in representing and ensuring that this is an interest enshrined in all instances, at all times, of ensuring that democracy thrives, is deepened, it exists in all our spheres of society. Honorable Breitenbach, if we would want to see a situation of sustained level of capacity in our own institutions, we have to show full support and respect of such institutions through ensuring that we throw our level best behind those who are in such offices, and ensuring that through our own committees of Parliament, we make our time in an analytical instance to throw weight on each and every report which is going to assist our own understanding and ensure accountability of these institutions at the right time, proper instances with correct tools. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Somio. My apologies. Our last. Honorable Jafta. You're the last.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, we wish to thank all the contributions from various political parties in responding to this motion. There is certainly an argument to be made about improving the work of some of these institutions, including the allocation of additional funding. This debate also focused on a high-level panel we are proposing to be established. This is where a great deal of performance reviews will unravel. We cannot thank enough the previous and current heads of these institutions for promoting our constitutional democracy. As we forge ahead in deepening our constitutional democracy, we hope the role of Chapter 9 institutions will remain central in achieving our democratic ideals. Honorable Chair, we also need to ensure that the citizens of the Republic are well versed about these institutions and their different roles in promoting democracy so that they can make use of them effectively. I thank to each and every participant in the debate, Honorable Chair. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jafta. We are moving to the next debate, strengthening the capacity of law enforcement agencies in the fight against violence. Our first speaker is Honorable Peacock, ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable members, we are participating in this debate to affirm our commitment as government to fight crime and to ensure safer communities. This fight against crime is informed by the imperatives in our Constitution that the right to freedom and security of the person is a fundamental right. In our manifesto for the 2019 elections, we made a commitment to people of South Africa that we shall, amongst other things, prioritize building safer communities for our people. This commitment is premised on the understanding that the value of democracy may not be realized in South Africans living in an environment that they don't feel safe. We understand that an environment of peace is an enabler for social economic development. When we commit to build safer communities, we set so conscious of the fact that the fight against crime requires a collective effort by all of us, including communities and civil society movements on the side of the law, as well as the law enforcement. But all of us working together to fight crime. We have to underscore the fact that the dawn of democracy has seen a drastic decline in some of the crimes in our country. This is not a matter of opinion, but a fact that is also researched by the Institute for Security Studies that shows that since 1993, the murder rate declined by over 55%. This points to the correlation between the political system and crime. Despite this drastic decline in the murder rate since 1993, we are aware, however, concerned about the level of crime in our country. We are concerned about the murders that leave families without fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, and uncles. One murder is one murder too many. We urge that to reduce the higher murder rate in our country, we have to entrench the democratic values in our society. The value of resolving disputes through talking to one another with the intention of peaceful resolving and the misunderstandings. This view is informed by the crime state that shows that most murders results from misunderstandings between people, especially young people. We encourage our young people to always resort to talking to one another in an event of misunderstanding and to avoid resorting to cruel measures of resolving disputes. The outcome of resolving dispute through violence is a deadly consequence to the victim and the arrest of the culprit. Our young people lose their lives at an early age because of unnecessary ways of resolving their differences. Our country is robbed of bright young minds that would take our country forward in the hands of their peers solely because they had an argument. In this regard, we call on our school systems to entrench in their curriculum the human relations module linked to life orientation to guide our children at an early stage or at an early age that violence is not a solution to any problem. The parents and guardians in families plays a critical role in the upbringing of young people. It is at this stage that child development that families should entrench the culture of resolving disputes peacefully. The parents, guardians, and elders in the society must lead by example on how to resolve misunderstanding in a peaceful manner. We also like to urge the youth formation in our country under the leadership of the NYDA to develop programs that are aimed at encouraging our young people to live a responsible and meaningful life away from crime. In this regard, we express outrage at the attack of a young woman of CPUT, allegedly by the husband. This incident has changed both the lives of the victim and the culprit. This could have been avoided. This could have been avoided if the culprit resorted to resolve whatever dispute they had in a peaceful way. We believe the law enforcement agencies will speedily deal with this crucial or this cruel crime to bring justice to the victim. We take this moment to commend the government interventions in dealing with the crime in our society. These interventions includes the allocation of additional funds for the police to further recruit police personnel to add capacity in the fight against crime. We commend the police for having established various specialized units to fight crime, including illegal mining. Honorable members, the other concerning crime is that of illicit financial flows. This is a sophisticated kind of crime that is mainly orchestrated by transitional corporations, the private businesses sectors. This kind of crime takes various forms, including tax avoidation and evasion. Some corporate shift their profit in a sophisticated manner between the mother company and its subsidiary abroad. Prices are inflated between the two companies, and thus monies are illicitly shifted from country to abroad and thus to avoid tax. In this regard, we wish to make reference to the work undertaken by the African Union High-Level Panel on illicit financial flows from Africa that made an observation that our continent is annually losing more than $50 billion through illicit financial outflow. In the high-level panel further observes that large corporations that are engaged in illicit financial flow have the means to retain the best available professional legal, accountancy, banking, and other expertise to help them perpetuate their aggressive and their illegal activities. The high-level panel report urges African countries to ensure that there is political will and the necessary technical capability to cut the illicit financial flow from Africa. In this regard, we applaud the work done by SARS by hosting the meeting in July 2023 for Africa to focus on tax transparency to counter tax evasion and illicit financial flow. We are in agreement with what the Minister of Finance said in his opening at the meeting of SARS, where he said, the international tax transparency standards have proven to be an effective tool in curbing tax evasion and other illicit financial flows and generating additional revenue ready to be invested in the development and provision of public service. The minister further urged the Global Forum to continue to serve African countries and to support Africa Initiative in its effort to build and enhance their capacities to use the exchange of information standard at their full potential on the continent. As we said earlier, we are surely not where we were in terms of crime rate, especially murder rate in our country, and that we are surely not where we want to be in terms of reducing crime in our country. We urge the JCPS cluster to strengthen its coordination and work together to fight crime in our country. We also note and commend the legislations that have been passed by the House and ascended into law by the President in the fight against crime. These include the Protected Disclosure Act and the Witness Protection Act. These legislations will ensure that patriots who intend to report crime do so without fear. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, we believe that working together as communities and police, including civil society, we can win our war against crime in our country. We reiterate our call to our young people to live a responsible and meaningful life and to stay away from crime. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. The next speaker, DA, Honorable Whitfield. Over to you, sir.
Chairperson, it is Honorable Golding. I will be speaking on behalf of Honorable Whitfield. Chair, I'd like to start off by saying that while I applaud this as a topic, I was slightly disappointed by the input of the previous member. We had feedback on what is happening, but not what should be happening. We've got a problem in this country. So, House Chairperson, while we strive to strengthen our enforcement agencies in the fight against crime, we do need to understand what the root cause of the problem is. The cause is the perceived lack of enforcement and subsequent consequence. To counter this, we need to be visible. We need to be seen enforcing law. Through this, we will hopefully rebuild public trust in SAPS and ultimately drive crime down. However, under the ANC government in the past 10 years, 240,000 of our citizens have been murdered. Let that set in. In the past 5 years, we've seen a reduction in force in SAPS from 192,000 to 179,000. That's a loss of 13,000 members. The current ratio is one member for just over a single member for just over 400 citizens, which is far in excess of the ideal 1 to 150. This is brought into stark contrast in certain areas where that ratio exceeds 1 to 2,000. The situation is not tenable. Coupled with this, since 2010, has been a decrease in the reservist levels, which was reduced from 63,000 in 2010 to a mere 3,000 now, an additional loss of 60,000 people. While crime is on the increase and the available resources are decreasing, we now need to recapacitate these services while under tight fiscal constraint. We need to think outside of the box. The answer is to cooperate, foster greater public-private partnership, to embrace innovation, and to bring policing and safety closer to the people. To this end, we must tap into the reservist pool. We must incorporate the more than 577,000 registered safety officers in the private industry and cooperate with the thousands of neighborhood and farm watch members in an integrated safety plan. To see how this should be done, we need look no further than the DA-run Western Cape government and the City of Cape Town. City of Cape Town, in partnership with the Western Cape government, has deployed its LEAP program, which is more than double the current number of law enforcement officers. It has deployed specialist units in metal theft, rail enforcement, infrastructure, rural safety, but to name a very few. In some cases, the cost of this is shared with the departments or the various government entities. That adds to our budget base. It has embraced volunteerism, its auxiliary law enforcement service adding more than 10% to the total force strength. The province has 600 registered neighborhood watches comprising 17,000 members who are capacitated, trained, and provided with effective tools for communication and base infrastructure. This includes PPEs, uniforms, safety aids, and access to an integrated citywide radio network. This is enhanced further by recruiting volunteer law enforcement officers from the ranks of the neighborhood watchers who are deployed in the area of origin. These neighborhood watchers are integrated into the city's control structure, coordinating information and movements. This integration and cooperation is extended to external trusted partners, such as private security companies, safety services, and indeed SAPS itself. Operational planning, be it crime prevention or disaster response, includes all of these role plays in an integrated approach. Efficacy in this space is enhanced further by smart policing. It provides emergency policing and control in an integrated manner to all public services by speeding up the processing of emergency telephone response, by providing electronic dispatching, tracking, and management of all resources. This allows for the appropriate and available resource to be dispatched to any incident. What that means is knowing where the vehicle is, where the person is, who is closer. Don't drive around, send them straight there. That's efficient use. Unlike the current failing 10111 program, the city, under its 107 program, call center and operations hub, is able to coordinate all of this. It includes integration of CCTV camera networks, shot spotter gunfire systems, and real-time drone usage to ensure that cases that result from policing or safety interventions are successful. The city issues watching briefs to legal staff who ensure that impediments in the criminal justice process are resolved. It provides for a higher rate of successful prosecution. Ultimately, in the city of Cape Town, you are more likely to suffer consequence. Where resources are limited, we need to work smarter. If SAPS is unable to adapt, it is time to devolve to those who can. Let the DA lead this country down a safer and less violent path. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. The next speaker is EFF. Honorable Gerike. EFF. Anyone from EFF who's taking up on behalf of Honorable Gerike? Honorables, can we go to the next speaker and then we will hear if the EFF is on the platform? Is there any member of the EFF on the platform? Honorable Majosi, IFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Today I stand before you to tackle a matter that cuts to the very heart of our nation and the pressing need for reform in South Africa's safety and law enforcement. The grim reality of rising crime levels, encompassing murder, robbery, gender-based violence, and organized crime demand our immediate attention. We can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to the insidious spectrum of police corruption whilst being left hopeless and helpless at the mercy of an ineffective government. Let's delve into the numbers. They tell a stark tale. 69 lives lost every day. Our streets made of violence and shadowy economic activities threatening our society. The big question, can we fix our policing and safety system under the National Development Plan? A decade-old blueprint intended to strengthen police integrity and recruitment of skills personnel. However, despite the numerous calls for a reform from various reports and commission, our government has yet to embrace this plan fully. The status quo of our policing system has lingered in stagnation for far too long. Incrementing budget increases, large-scale recruitment, and promise to breathe life into community police forum are part of an outdated playbook. It's time for a more purposeful process at the highest government level to fortify the South African Police Service and the overall system of policing safety. As we embark on this reform journey, let's put SAP's leadership effectiveness under the microscope, from recruitment and training to strategic planning, procurement integrity, and overall management of police stations. Every cog in the wheel deserves scrutiny. Let's discuss expectation. Can we realistically ask our police to provide security akin to Western countries? Should that be our model? If not, we must explore the roles of other groups in policing and local safety. The essence is clear. Our people deserve justice, peace, and security tailored to South Africa's unique needs. The Inkatha Freedom Party advocates practical solutions. Picture this: private security, community patrol system, and community-based structures working hand in hand, integrating private security into our policing system as suggested by the July 2021 unrest. Deserve more than a passing glance. Community members acknowledged by the National Development Plan could play a pivotal role, especially where street lighting is dim and vulnerability is high. Our society's criminological nature, marked by chronic violence and crime, demands a multi-phased approach. It's not just about fortifying our police system, but also addressing the socio-economic foundation of criminality. Effective policing is the linchpin for the functioning society. Shifting our focus to economic crimes, illegal mining, extortion, and economic sabotage, the situation becomes clear. The government must intensify efforts to strengthen ties between commercial fraud investigators and the South African Police Service. Collaboration, joint training programs, and shared information platforms are non-negotiation. Now, let's talk about certified fraud examiners. Progress towards granting the peace officer status, building on their commissioner of oath status, could be a game changer. Monitoring the Department of Justice progress is pivotal to effective combat crime and corruption. As we discuss these vital matters, we must acknowledge the economic repercussion of these crimes. They drain our resources and stifle our nation's social growth and development. Designating peace officer status and CFEs sends a resounding message, commitment to protecting our economy and securing the future of our people. In conclusion, building a safer, more inclusive, stable, and just South Africa requires addressing the socio-economic foundation of criminality and bolstering both the SAPS and the overall policing system. Let us strive for a genuine progress towards a safer and more harmonious society. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable. Thank you, Honorable Majosi. The next speaker, FF Plus, Honorable Groenewald.
Subject of discussion is the strengthening of the law enforcing agencies, specifically to fight violent crime, referring to economic sabotage. It also refers to illegal mining, the zama-zamas. Now, Chair, we can have as many discussions as we want. Firstly, we must admit and recognize the fact that to fight effectively and ensure that crime decreases, it actually refers to the whole criminal justice system. At this moment, the criminal justice system is actually failing the people of South Africa. The criminal justice system, which the police services is only one component, but also includes, for instance, correctional services, as well as the Justice Department, is of such a nature of corruption that you cannot fight crime effectively. There's no use if you have criminals in our correctional services centers, but they still continue with their criminal activities, specifically when it comes to organized crime. It's no use that you have a good Justice Department, but there is some other way, some other prosecutor that ensures that a file disappears. Chairperson, when it comes to the police services, we know that corruption is rife. It's easy to do an investigation in such a manner that you know there's no way of a successful prosecution. Therefore, if we want to ensure that we fight crime effectively, we must not just look at the capacitation of these departments, we must address the crime in the criminal justice system, and that main crime is nothing else than corruption. Ek wil vandag vir u sê dat daar word gevra oor die dienste van die Suid-Afrikaanse polisie. Maar dit is ontstellend as 'n mens moet verneem dat gister, soos daar gestel is, dat 70% van die spesiale taakmag in KwaZulu-Natal die afgelope tydperk net eenvoudig bedank het uit die Suid-Afrikaanse polisiediens. Die vraag is hoekom? Dit gaan oor swak salarisse, dit gaan oor swak werksomstandighede, dit gaan oor 'n swak bevorderingsbeleid. Daar is lede wat al 15, 20 jaar in dieselfde rang is. En dit word gereeld aangespreek. Dan wil ek vir u sê, dis geen wonder dat dit sleg gaan nie. As dit gaan oor die Zama-Zamas, die president het nou die weermag ontplooi. Ek wil vir u sê, dit is maar niks anders as 'n futiele oefening nie. Geen soldaat of polisieman sal onder in 'n gat ingaan om die Zama-Zamas te beveg nie. Dit is selfmoord. As ons die Zama-Zamas wil aanspreek, en dis 'n probleem wat al sedert 2007 kom, moet die syndikaate wat die goudstof of die minerale koop, hulle moet deur die intelligensiestrukture behoorlik ondersoek word, wat dan, dit is deel van georganiseerde misdaad. En as ons dit nie gaan doen nie, dan help dit nie ons hou toesprake oor hoe om misdaad te bestry nie, ons moet optree. Ek dankie.
Thank you, Honorable Groenewald. I recognize the Deputy Minister of Police, ANC.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to honorable members, ministers, and deputy ministers on the platform. Please receive our greetings this afternoon and allow me to tender Minister Kelly's apology for not being able to be part of this important debate, which is taking place in the midst of our continued efforts to find new and innovative interventions to discharge our enormous responsibility of keeping our nation safe. We remain fully aware of the pressing obligation to continue pursuing every possible avenue that will help us realize a crime-free South Africa in keeping with the vision of our forebearers as espoused in the Freedom Charter and our Constitution. The realization of a South Africa where our people and everyone within our borders will live without fear of being attacked or becoming victim of criminality. A South Africa where entrepreneurs and corporates will be able to freely exercise their trade and prosper. Since the dawn of democracy, considerable strides have been made in ensuring that our people have access to equal opportunities and basic services they require to improve their living conditions. Many of our people have enjoyed the fruits of freedom, with their lives being far better than they were under the apartheid regime. However, many things must still be done, especially in creating a conducive environment for them to participate in the first economy. Hence, that we continue to intervene as government and plead with the private sector to also play its role in that respect. Having said that, honorable members and chairperson, we are not oblivious to the fact that the country is experiencing erratic incidents of violence and extortion, targeting both formal and informal businesses alike. We all know that crime and criminality are a major impediment to economic growth and come at an extremely high cost to the country's economy as a whole. Crime stands as a major obstacle in our efforts to improve the lives of our people by eliminating inequalities, alleviating poverty, and ensuring economic growth. This is why we fight criminals every day and night, because we fully appreciate that crime discourages foreign investment, reduces tourism, and stalls economic activity in general. Honorable members, in recent years, we have seen an unprecedented increase in incidents of theft and vandalism of our critical infrastructure. For example, as a result of theft of copper cables, our country has been plunged into darkness, with regular load shedding being part of our daily lives. Of late, criminals are also targeting infrastructure critical for the provision of the country's water and fuel. And as a result, we have experienced incidents of water shedding as well. The theft of copper cables and steel has often left trains grounded and commuters stranded, with huge loss of revenue to both Transnet and PRASA, as well as loss of income to commuters. It is now public knowledge that Transnet and PRASA cannot meet their contractual obligations because the rail network system has been compromised by theft and vandalism. We are, however, working closely with communities to gather intelligence to confront this problem, and we are beginning to see some positive results. Extortion is also becoming a serious issue of common concern. Since 2015, the so-called forums have spread across the country, invading construction sites and demanding a 30% share of any work or contract. In 2019 alone, these forums affected at least 183 projects worth more than 63 billion. Sadly, this phenomenon has extended to small, medium, and micro enterprises, as well as impoverished households who have, for example, rented their back rooms as a source of income. Recently, we have also seen a worrying increase in reported cases of kidnappings. According to Substats, 3,641 cases of kidnappings were registered in South Africa in the first quarter of 23-24. This crime takes various forms, where some are kidnapped for human trafficking activities, while others are kidnapped for ransom and extortion purposes. Of late, some people have been kidnapped and kept captive for days, while perpetrators are withdrawing hefty amounts of money from their bank accounts. We have also in recent months experienced an alarming spike of illegal mining activities. Illegal mining activities are not a unique problem to this country, but their severity, their rapid increase, and their potential devastating impact on the lives and livelihoods of our citizens are of serious concern for our ailing economy. The current levels of illegal mining activities occurring across Gauteng as well as other provinces are not only affecting the safety and security of our communities, but also impact negatively on the economy of the country and are a major threat to the security of the state. We have all witnessed the reported tough wars between rival illegal mining gangs or shootouts between these zamazamas and security officers. This being the case, we have also seen an increase in the number of arrests and convictions of perpetrators in this regard. Honorable members, with the welcome leaps in levels of information and communication technological advancement, we have also experienced drastic changes in the way we live our lives economically, socially, and politically. The world today is more interconnected than ever before. Yet with all these advantages, increased connectivity brings increased risk of theft and fraud and abuse. We have, as a result, seen an upsurge in technology-based crime and the technologically advanced high-tech criminals using computers and advanced technology to commit crime, protected by the anonymity that this technology offers. This has compelled us to look at prioritizing our ICT advancement as well. We will not allow criminals to be ahead of us. Illicit and counterfeit trade-related crimes have also increased exponentially since the advent of democracy, with far-reaching consequences for both the well-being of our people and the economic stability of our country. I believe that every form of crime, from pickpocketing to organized transnational crime, negatively impact our economy. If not well managed, it will aggravate unemployment as well as lead to disinvestment and capital flight. No country can grow economically if crime continues to escalate Yet it will be impossible to resolve the escalating crime crisis if the economy is not growing. Hence, as the ruling party, we have taken a conscious decision to adopt a multifaceted approach that focuses on crime reduction and economic growth simultaneously. Therefore, I believe it is in recognition of the gravity of the consequences of crime and criminality that President Ramaphosa implored the Minister of Police to take urgent, decisive action and put in place intervention to push back the frontiers of lawlessness. To this effect, under the stewardship of the Ministry of Police and the senior management of SAPS, a review of SAPS performance and crime prevention strategy was undertaken, and a number of interventions to deal with the challenges mentioned above were developed with a strict implementation monitoring plan that we are still pursuing to date. In this regard, SAPS has, as of May this year, implemented Operation Chanela as one of our intervention of aggressively dealing with crime and criminality. And I'm proud to announce that we have seemed to be winning the battle in this regard. As evidence from the recent crime stats, we are beginning to see a remarkable drop in most crime categories, and with the current rollout of the Safer Festive program, I believe we will see more improvement in this regard. We are also aggressively disrupting illegal mining activities and have been making a number of arrests, and we are working on a strategy to target the actual buyers of these illegal mined resources. We also applaud the intervention by the President to reinforce our effort in this regard, and we're quite confident that we'll make serious inroads in this regard. We have also been gradually tackling illicit and counterfeit trading. To date, we have confiscated goods worth hundreds of millions, ranging from food, cigarettes, alcohol, and clothing. We are also aware that most of the serious organized crime are the work of cross-border syndicates. Hence, in partnership with the Department of Home Affairs and other security cluster departments, we are working together in the establishment and strengthening of the Border Management Authority, which was launched by the President, joined by the President of Zimbabwe recently. The Border Management Authority is a collaborative type of law enforcement agency to clamp down on crime and illegal immigration, improve security, and monitor the movement of people and goods across the country's borders. It is true that there has been a decline in terms of the number of police officers within the South African Police Service. But it is also true that with the intervention of the President, we have, for the first time in the history of the country, trained over 10,000 new recruits as police constables who passed from their training last December on the 14th. And we are going to have another 10,000 that will be passing out on the 15th of December, with a commitment from the President that they will allow us to train another 10,000 for the next financial year. So effectively, we are going to have an extra 20,000 police officers as they are released from college at the end of this month, at the end of December on the 15th. And we will add another 10,000 next year, 15th of December. So all in all, we will in this 3-year period increase the police shortage in the country by 30,000. This is a decisive intervention that must be implored, because we have come to the realization that there is a need to strengthen the police service in that regard. The position of this government and the security cluster is very clear. No crime or criminality will be tolerated in this country. We can't co-govern with criminals. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I now recognize UDM. UDM?
Chairperson, sorry, apology. This is Veronica from the EFF. I was struggling to get on into the system. I am tuned in now, Chairperson.
Okay, you can speak, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, South Africa has become a haven for criminals and organized criminal syndicates operating from this country and from outside the borders of the country. Those operating internally have eclipsed the state and are running a parallel state of their own. They extort businesses by demanding protection fees both in townships and in towns. Today, there's a lot of restaurants and entertainment places, even right here in Cape Town, that are paying some form of protection fees to one gang or another. Businesses are forced to do this because the state has no capacity to offer protection to them, and they know their failure to pay the extortion amount would lead to collapse of their businesses, or worse, lead to death. These organized syndicates are beyond the reach of the law because they have inside officials in their pockets. It would have never been possible for organized criminal syndicates to organize and execute a crime such as the murder of Colonel Kinnear without the involvement of other police officers. Honest police officers such as the late Colonel Kinnear are constantly at risk of losing their lives because they refuse to be in the pockets of gangs. Further, we are victims of organized international crimes, Madam Chair, because our borders are porous and there is no proper control of goods that come into the country. All of these, Chairperson, as indicated earlier, point to a grave problem of a collapsed state. History littered with examples of corruption and that eats into the marrow of the state, making it unable to perform basic functions, leaving citizens at the mercy of vagabonds. In instances like this, the state itself becomes an instrument in the pursuit of crime. South Africa has arrived at this level. We have no functioning crime and intelligence of any kind in the country, except that used in pursuit of party political interest and in pursuit of criminal activities by police bosses. We need to urgently weed out unruly elements within our crime and intelligence services and build up this unit afresh to be able to detect and prevent organized crime. Linked to this must be a rapid reskilling of members of the National Prosecuting Authority to levels directly proportional to the complexity of the crimes committed, Madam Chair. As of this moment, we are unable to prosecute those involved in the Stein of Heist. The National Director of Public Prosecutions has publicly admitted that they do not have capacity to prosecute this type of crime. This makes a mockery of our entire justice system because it gives out an impression that only lower-level criminals will pay for their crimes. This is so because we have lost key detective capacities within SEPS, and many other functions, such as the DNA laboratory services, have been progressively decimated over time. Madam Chair, we need to re-establish and strengthen cooperation between police and communities, and we must root out corruption within SEPS and set an example by arresting and imprisoning those working hand-in-hand with gangsters. If the state was willing, we could eliminate the problem of illegal mining in a very short space of time. We know where the mines are. We know the companies that were given licenses to mine. These companies must be held to account and must take responsibility for securing the mines. Ultimately, SEPS ought to know who the big men are behind these illegal mining operations. We are unable to resolve these problems, Madam Chair, because the state itself has become an integral instrument of crime. Today, Madam Chair, the only solution at our disposal is to get rid of incompetent and corrupt officials and politicians and restore the integrity of the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. We are now going back to UDM. I now recognize UDM. UDM. ATM. ATM. Good. Good. ANC, Honorable Siabi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, House Chair, and greetings to ministers and deputy ministers on platform and all honorable members. In this debate, we would like to make a point that the fight against crime is a societal issue. Chris Pillay writes that since 1993, the South African Police Service adopted community policing as its operational philosophy to meet the safety and security needs of all people in the country. As one of its major objectives, community policing strives to establish active partnerships between the police and the community at local level, through which crime, service delivery, and community police relations can be jointly analyzed and the necessary solutions formulated and implemented. In 2018, the Deputy Minister of Police launched the National Community Policing Strategy. The strategy makes provision for community policing that focuses on crime and social disorders through the delivery of police services that includes aspects of democratic law enforcement as well as prevention, problem solving, community engagement, and partnerships. The strategy has been developed to revamp the centrality of the community in crime fighting, and the objective of the strategy is to enhance structured community involvement in crime prevention by making all people in South Africa feel free and safe through multidisciplinary collaboration or interventions. The strategy has a number of pillars that include the public education, build community resilience to crime, as well as multidisciplinary collaboration. The strategy further emphasizes that problem solving should be based on a consultative approach, which constantly seeks to improve responsiveness to identified and prioritized community needs. It emphasizes that education, capacity building, and reskilling of SAPS personnel and members of the community to enable constructive participation in addressing the problems of crime. At the center of the strategy, Madam Chair, is the enhancement of the accountability of the police to the communities they serve. The communities are mobilized for a shared responsibility and decision-making, as well as sustained commitment from both the police and the community with regard to safety and security needs. The strategy seeks to create an understanding and trust between the police, the community, and other relevant role players. We are making reference to the strategy because it is consistent with how the democratic government led by the ANC conceptualized police service. The democratic government envisioned a police service that will suit the constitutional democracy that we are advancing. The new South African police had to shift from the police system of apartheid regime that had little or no regard to the rights of the citizens. In his master's mini thesis on the sector policing to improve community policing in South Africa, Donovan Smith argues that as a public sector organization, the South African police was not excluded from this transformation process. He continues to say transformation did not simply mean a change in name or a change in the color of the vehicle. It meant a new style of policing, a whole new concept of how a police service should function within a democratic society had to be developed and learned. With the South African Police Services, the SAPS, we introduced a philosophy in the police service, a philosophy of serving and protecting the people. The police are not the enemy of the people. It is therefore important that the police and the society or communities should see each other as partners in the fight against crime. Our police are there to execute the mandate of protecting us, the citizens, for our part. As the citizens, we should cooperate and support the police to execute their mandate. Consistent with the philosophy of a serving police service, the ANC government introduced the Community Policing Forums, the CPFs, to bring together the communities and the police in the fight against crime. This means that a collaboration and cooperation to fight crime is formalized between the communities and the police. The assessment is that the CPFs have recorded successes and failures. Amongst the successes, even though asymmetrical, relates to the many incidences that the communities have alerted the police on, incidences of crime, but most importantly, in crime prevention. The successes of CPFs vary from one community to another. The differences are mainly with regard to the understanding of the role of the CPFs, as well as having volunteers who participate in the CPFs. We all agree that there is a need to provide resources for the CPFs to make it more effective and efficient. This is a matter that government should continuously look at. For a start, the Minister of Police has allocated 70 million rands towards the capacitation of CPFs. Provinces are also continuing to play their part in ensuring that CPFs are capacitated to do their work. A case in point is Gauteng province, which has donated more than 17 vehicles to the CPFs to make sure that they do their work. The Civilian Secretariat, on the other hand, Civilian Secretariat of Police Services continues to provide education and training to CPFs as a way of empowering them with knowledge. We are approaching the festive season, Madam Chair and honorable members, and government will be launching the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. It is ironic that this year we will be launching the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children in the face of the many women and children that are killed in the war on Gaza. We call on the state of Israel to stop the attack on Gaza and save the lives of women and children. The 16 days of activism is our collective intentions to say enough is enough. No violence to our women and children. We have to lead from the front as the representatives of the people, to march with our communities to create awareness in the fight against violence to women and children. Once again, Madam Chair, we reiterate that the fight against crime is a societal issue, and it requires all of us to join hands to build safer communities. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. I now recognize NFP. NFP. AIC. AIC. Co. DA.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Chairperson,
you.
can you hear me?
Chair,
Chairperson,
I
thank
can
you.
hear you.
As we speak here today, Chairperson, the murder rate rose with 77% over the last 2 decades, from 15,554 in 2011-2012 to 27,494 in the 2012 from 2012 to the last financial year. Chairperson, the previous National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, General Sithole, before his retirement admitted that the department is unable to fulfill its constitutional obligations in terms of Section 205 of the South African Constitution. Today, the SAPS finds itself in exactly the same position, if not worse. In short, this means that South Africans are forced to be self-reliant and responsible for protecting their loved ones and their property. In any other self-respecting country, the public would have expected that the minister and the national commissioner responsible to immediately resign or to be dismissed, and the state president would have intervened promptly to rectify the situation. Sadly, the situation is still going on as usual and worsening daily. Like the rest of South Africa, Chairperson, the police force is also doomed to suffer the ruins of a failed state. The current ANC government either doesn't have the political appetite or the ability to stop this free fall or to change its trajectory. The good news, however, is that there is hope. Voters are aware that the 2024 elections is the opportune time to remove this incompetent government and replace it with a DA government. Change is possible, but it must start now. The outdated current policing model needs to be replaced by the new total policing framework, setting in motion the transformation that the SAPS so desperately requires. Crime prevention is still reliant on practical and visible policing and must be enhanced by fostering strong partnerships with the community it serves. Devolving police powers to lower levels of government must benefit this approach, as each administration authority would be able to tailor policing needs to suit its province or region. For example, gangsterism is more prevalent in the Western Cape, while illegal mining is more of a problem in Gauteng and the Free State. It makes a lot of sense to devolve power to grassroots level. LEAP officers in the Western Cape could play a prominent role if they had more authority. Reservist programs and hiring of retired detectives must be prioritized to provide immediate solutions and cost-saving benefits. Our criminal justice system should hinge on evidence-based policing to ensure that the prosecution, detection, and conviction rates improve while simultaneously serving as a deterrent for would-be criminals. Once law and order is restored, investment and employment opportunities will return to these areas and our youth will be able to find employment, preventing them from joining the ranks of gangs. However, without a change in government, all the aforementioned possibilities will remain just that, possibilities. Under the watch of Minister Becky Cele, the SAPS ran out of ideas. Him and his department got stuck in the past, and the criminals are rapidly gaining the upper hand. Their inability and incompetence resulted in the president being forced to call in the army as the police lost the fight against crime. We now have the Pot-Dakara Amendment Act, which includes an even broader scope of terrorism, and South Africa is shamefully unable to fulfill both its domestic and international responsibilities. All of this at the same time, the country is facing extreme rolling blackouts, exacerbated the coal and Eskom mafia sabotaging power stations. The time has come for an in-depth investigation be done and the mafias to be exposed and treated as the domestic economic terrorists they are. Chairperson, the Bible teaches us that there is an appointed time for everything. Becky's Cele's time has come. He has to go, and the sooner the better.
Time up, Minister. Time up, Honorable. Time up. I now
Thank you,
recognize the. Thank you. I now recognize ANC.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable members, we all agree that the level of crime in our country is of serious concern. We also agree that police alone cannot address the challenge of crime to ensure safe communities. This means that the collective working together of the police and communities becomes critical in fighting crime. Yesterday, as I was listening to the news on radio, I heard of a problem of stock theft in some parts of KwaZulu-Natal province, as well as Limpopo province. One by one, listeners expressed their experience with stock theft and the frustrations with regard to the response of police in this matter, especially the units that deals with stock theft. In this regard, we urge the police to prioritize this matter of stock theft and to work with the communities to address this problem. We do also agree with Honorable Siabi that the national community policing strategy should inform our collective approach in dealing with crime within our communities. We firmly believe that the mobilization of communities, the civil society, and other community-based organizations will contribute positively in the fight against crime. Indeed, government should also address the socio-economic challenges that contribute to crime, such as sporadic so-called service delivery protests. We commend the work of the police in establishing various specialized police units to fight crime. This will also include the organized crime such as illegal mining, cross-border crimes, as well as illicit crimes. We applaud the deployment of soldiers by the President to support the police in the fight against illegal mining, which is a serious concern within our communities, especially amongst the mining communities. As we approach the festive season, we should all put shoulders to the wheel in the 16 days of activism against violence against women and children. We must protect our women and our children, and we should make it a 365 days commitment. Honorable Chairperson, in responding to some of the committee members that had their input towards this motion, I would like to call upon Honorable Goldwyn, where he said that we only focus, or my speech was only focusing on what is happening, not what is supposed to be done. Honorable member, when he listened carefully on the speech that I was tabling, I even brought up solution that the police department brought in order to curb violence or to curb crime. And to Honorable Tara Blanche, we cannot blame the men on everything that is done. We can't always bring the issue of crime to the minister. It's the collective, as you heard on the speech that I mentioned, that it needs a collective or a collaborative approach in order to fight crime. We can't be seen pointing fingers to people, whereas we know that crime itself, it needs a holistic approach and it needs to be fought by each and everyone. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes the debates and the business of this visual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary will now rise. I thank you.